David has extensive experience in drama. He was a producer and a director in the theatre. There you go. He's been a producer of shows and workshops for young people and a very much in-demand speaker, trainer, and writer. His online course, Drama Games for Language Teaching, has won the Best Resources for Teachers Award from the ESU, the English Speaking Union. And he's also the author of some best-selling books on drama that includes the 101 Drama Games and Activities and Learning Through Drama in the Primary Years. I have David now on camera. David, take it away.
During my time running a theatre company, I used to use Drama Games a heck of a lot. And when I went freelance after the theatre company closed, I started to develop these, particularly for language teaching and learning. So I'm going to share with you those favourite games, my top 5 games. And along the way, I'm going to be showing you some videos of teacher training students taking part in the activities at Nile Institute in Norwich, as well as some places elsewhere. So these are the 5 drama games that I'm going to introduce to you. And I'm just clicking onto the public chat here just to say hello to everybody from Poland, Iran, Ukraine, Pondicherry, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, and many other places. I'm looking at them popping up now. Greece, Argentina, Brazil, Morocco. Incredible. How wonderful is that? So the 5 games I'm going to take you through today are called 1, 2, 3, clap across the circle, 10-second objects, what are you doing, and Imaginarium. And we will have time to go through all of those before 2 p.m. and hopefully leave you some time for some questions at the end if you have time. So hello again to everybody. And I would like you to now think about this question. Why should we use drama in the English teaching classroom? So any suggestions, because it's an amazing crack. I can't pronounce that properly, but I know it's Irish, and it's all about chatting and talking. It's a great way of getting people to talk. It's motivating, it verbalizes, empowers students, and the topic becomes tangible, and it's engaging, it increases confidence, helps the student forget about the artificial content of the classroom and to engage with each other. The learners can put themselves in a situation, they can use their bodies for learning. All these are firing up very quickly, which is very exciting. Learning by doing to make the class more realistic and enjoyable. Well, you've obviously got the hang already of why drama is so wonderful. And I'm going to talk about, you can carry on putting in those suggestions. And while you do, I'm just want to talk about why drama became something that I was interested in. And so I've got something here about my drama memories. And so at an early age of about probably 10, I think, I can remember sitting in the school classroom, and I was sitting there listening to the teacher. Perhaps there was an element of feeling that the teacher was droning on a little bit. And he started to talk about a ballet dancer, and he didn't ask me to do it, but I got up and started pirouetting amongst the tables and desks and chairs on my own like a ballet dancer, because he just kind of carried me into another world, and I felt like expressing that aspect of myself, as I say, probably about 9, 10 years old. And I wasn't really aware of what was happening, but I would say in a very basic way, I was responding to his teaching dramatically. And let's face it, the general traditional setup for students is to sit in a classroom behind desks, and it is not the natural way for them. Students love to move. Young ones in particular but older ones too, given the opportunity to break out of those four walls of the desk and chair, will often take to it in a big way. So a few years later, I went to secondary school from the age of 11, and it became a very formal way of education. So I'd gone from a primary school into a secondary school, and now we really were expected to stay behind those desks and to open our books, to listen to the teacher and respond in the very traditional way. Okay, then when I was about 14, a new teacher came to the school, and I have to admit that I was at school in the swinging 60s. So here we have the entrance of a hippie teacher into the classroom, and he was the new drama teacher. And suddenly the way in which I could learn completely changed. So this guy came in, and he may have had a headband. He certainly had long hair and long sideburns. And he introduced us to drama games, drama techniques, and new ways of expressing ourselves. So we were not only able to express ourselves, but we were able to interact in a live way with other students. Okay, so I became interested in drama, and I won't go into it because I could really go on about this for a long time. But that's how I got into drama. And when I left school, I decided that I would go to secondary school. And by the way, I just want to have a look at some suggestions for using why we should use drama. So we had all your suggestions earlier on, and these are some of my suggestions too. So I was talking about how we often ask children to sit behind a desk, or adults too, but I would say that drama is a natural way of learning. It's a part of natural play. It's active and it's interactive. And children are used to using that way of learning before they come to school. So we have this innate way of learning through acting, through role play, through having fun. And as somebody says here, it's more human, it's inspirational. And through drama, we can develop speaking and listening skills. It is multisensory, and we learn through experience and fun. And very, very importantly, through emotional involvement. So, it's really incredible that we can bring emotion into learning. And if you have fun and you're experiencing things through an emotional level, then you will remember what happened in the classroom when you go home, and when you talk to people afterwards, when you think about what happened. Things will come back to you because you had fun, because you experienced them in an emotional way. And last of all, I've got here teamwork. Next thing I'd like to say is that drama activates learning modes on many, many levels. So physical, I've talked about, visual, oral, verbal, social, and logical. So in all those learning modes, we can use drama, and it activates those methods and techniques of learning in all students in different ways. And some will be more visual learners or social learners, but everybody has got those aspects of learning, and drama can relate to those in so many different ways. So I'm going to flick over to a slide here and ask you, which drama games or methods do you already currently use in your teaching? And I've got some suggestions here for you. So you don't have to keep to these, but I would love to know, maybe there's some particular games that you like to use. People are saying role play, and of course role play is a very important part of language learning, whether you use drama games or not. And I'm going to be talking about a few of these methods as we go through the presentation. So people are saying most of them, that's great. Now, I won't be surprised if some people use hardly any of them. And that's why you're here today as well, because I'm going to, as I say, give you 5 different drama games to take away. But here you've seen some of my favorite ideas about how you can use drama and why it's so effective and successful. So let's go over to the first game, and that game is called 1, 2, 3. By the way, before I really go into it, I just want to remind you that if you didn't have time to write everything down on the last slide, you will be able to download this presentation afterwards. And in a week's time, I believe Macmillan will be uploading the webinars onto their YouTube channel. So don't worry if you missed 1 or 2 things. It's great to see how people are talking about how they are using these methods, not just with children, but with teenagers, with adults. And whenever I teach language teachers, I always explain that these games and methods, every one that I use can be used with virtually any age group. And I use them literally from 5 years old, sometimes younger, right up to adults. So I'm just going to close this presentation and launch a video of this particular game that I want to share with you. It's called 1, 2, 3, and you're going to see some students at the Nile Institute playing the game, and I hope you'll gather an idea of how it works. The idea, in fact, I can even play it with you online before we look at the video. So I'm going to say 1. My partner, because this is a pair game, I should mention that, says 2, and then I say 3. Now it's my partner's turn to say 1. Okay, so we literally count 1, 2, 3, and then my partner says 1, and I say 2. My partner says 3. So even though I can't hear you, I'm going to play the game with you, and I want you to respond to your screen, even if anybody else is in the room and wonders what you are doing. So let's see if we can just try it in a very virtual way. 1, 3, 2, 1. Actually, that's a really hard thing to do with a virtual partner. So I'm going to show you how it works in a classroom situation. That's the first level of the game. And the second level, we start to introduce a clap to replace the number 1. And I'll let the students teach you the rest. Here we go. This is a fun introductory warm-up and concentration game that I play over and over again with new groups. Just divide the students into pairs and ask them to start counting from 1 to 3 between them, a bit like a ping pong game.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Those students have been practicing, so they're quite fast. I'll show you that clip again in a moment. This is how you play the game. A says 1, B says 2, A says 3, and then B says 1, and they keep on going. Practice this stage for a good 30 seconds or a minute. Here is that last pair in slow motion.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Sounds weird, doesn't it? Now the students are ready for stage 2. This time, instead of saying the number 1, students have to clap their hands. They say the numbers 2 and 3 the same as before. By the way, this game is a lot easier to play than it is to describe. So, it goes like this. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. I wonder who those 2 people were. They look familiar. Now, for the next stage, you're going to clap instead of 1, say the number 2, but instead of saying 3, you have to bend your knees.
2, sorry.
Try again.
2,
2,
2.
Good concentration. Give them a round of applause. Well done. As you can see, the game does involve concentration, but it's also really good fun, especially when you make mistakes. It's a great way of waking your students up and only takes a few minutes to play. Just the thing for a sleepy Friday afternoon. Okay, so I hope you can hear me again. And that was the first version of the game, and I saw people saying, "Oh, why? Why are we playing that game?" Well, the first reason for playing the game is it was a game that I used to use a lot in my theatre company just for warming the actors up. I used to use it with children as well, that we were working with, and with adults. And if you're ever teaching a group of people, it's just a brilliant way to break the ice. It makes people laugh, and it's fantastic. The moment it goes wrong, it's really funny, and it takes the pressure off. People are simply using 3 words, and everybody can count 3 words in the language they're learning. But when I started to use this with language teachers, I started to realize that there was a way in which you could add in some language learning. So I'm going to show you how this incredibly quick 5-second game can be used for some language learning. So we are going to watch another video, which I'm just going to bring up, and here it is. Okay, so with this, you will now see how you can start to incorporate words and phrases. So we had a clap for the number 1. We were bending our knees for the number 3. That leaves the number 2. So my suggestion is that we could use we could bring in some vocabulary practice. So for example, if you were learning the word telephone, you could have an action for telephone to replace the number 2. But again, this is something that I really need to demonstrate. So here comes the video
of the final version of 1, 2, 3, where participants are practicing words or phrases. As you will see, the examples are quite varied and can add a lot of fun to learning chunks of language. As a reminder, we are clapping for the number 1, speaking a word or phrase with an action for the number 2, and bending our knees for the number 3.
Gear stick.
Gear stick.
Okay, that's great. Give them a clap. Well done. So let's see you two.
Cardigan. Cardigan.
Excellent. Cardigan. Well done. Nice word. Okay, I'm going to pause and close the video there. And I hope you managed to see it and to get an idea of how it worked. So I'm going to bring back the PowerPoint and take us on a little bit further. And I hope if you had problems watching that video, don't worry too much, because again, with the YouTube presentation that will appear online in a week, the video will be playing perfectly and you should be able to see it and hear it with no problem. So, okay, that was the game 1, 2, 3. I'm going to leave Macmillan to solve any technical problems that you may have had, but mostly I think it is probably to do with connection. Okay, so we're going to go on to the second game because I've got to fit 5 of these in. We've had 1, so I'm going to start zooming through and clap across the circle. Again, let me explain where it came from. So it's a great warm-up game for a group, okay? And originally it was just for developing concentration with actors or with any group. One person starts off by clapping their hands and looking towards another person, okay? So I look over towards you, clap my hands towards you. That person then imagines that they are receiving the sound and the energy from that clap. They catch it like this, okay? Now they are the ones with that clap, that energy, and they're going to look to somebody else in the circle and pass it on to them. So I'm going to show you again how this works in a shorter video. So let me just find that one for you. And what you'll see first of all, so we start off just by clapping hands, and then we're going to add in again some simple language, some vocabulary. So I set a theme, and this time, instead of people just clapping their hands, they have to say a word which fits in a category. For example, I might give them the theme of colors, and they have to come up with a different color each time. Let's see how that works. I hope you managed to see the video okay.
White.
It's starting now.
Yellow. Red. Green. Rose. Pink. Orange.
Dark blue.
Maroon. White.
Sapphire.
Mouse. Monkey. Cat. Elephant. Dog.
And
Tiger.
Okay, as I say, that was the video, quite short and sweet. So you should get an idea of how it works. If you didn't see it, well, as I say, you can catch it up later. But it really is a very simple circle game, and it's called Clap Across the Circle. All right. Now, yeah, any questions about those first two games that we looked at? So we had 1, 2, 3 and Clap Across the Circle. Great. I can see the comments coming in. Yeah, the vocabulary could be anything you like. And the whole point about these games, all right, is that you could just interject one game into your teaching. So you don't have to have a drama session as such. It could be within your language class. So you just take 5 minutes out, teach some vocabulary, and then play a game. And it's just a simple way of bringing the students to life, waking them up, giving them an opportunity to use that vocabulary in a way. Yes, we can select anything other than colors. We could have, as we saw there, animals, we could have jobs, hobbies, emotions, words beginning with A, famous, places, you know, just anything you like. All right. So there we go. That was called Clap Across the Circle. And I'm now going to ask, or rather talk to you about what a drama game actually is, because I've been using them for so many years. I kind of instinctively know what they are. So when I started running webinars and talking about drama games, I realized that not everybody would have this knowledge. So I'm now going to show you what I think a drama game is, and how it might be described. So a drama game is a structure which enables interaction, which could be physical or verbal or both. It involves communication, creativity, and learning. Okay. The qualities of drama games are that they are generally short in length. They can be done with the whole class, with a group, or with a pair. And some of them could even be done online. I have played these games online where I could hear people on the other side, and it's amazing what you can achieve. Types of drama games can include role play, they can include warm-ups, icebreakers, concentration, improvisation, group dynamics, mime, and movement. Okay, so that for me is kind of a summary of what drama games are, what they can do, how they are structured, and how you can use them. I've got hundreds of these drama games that I've used over the years, and I find that they're a bit like folk songs. So quite often different people will play these games and they will have slightly different versions of them. So I won't be surprised if some of you already know some of these games, but play them in a slightly different way. and that's absolutely fine. I'm teaching you my way of playing these games, and you can use my way or you can go your way. It's whatever you like to do. Okay, so let's zoom on a little bit to 10-second objects. Okay, so the game 1, 2, 3 is a very quick game. Clap around the circle takes a little bit longer, but this game literally takes 10 seconds to play. Once I've warmed up the group a bit, perhaps with a game like 1, 2, 3, and they start to feel like there's not so much pressure on them, I might get them to work together in groups. And 10-second objects is a group game. So I divide the class into groups, and then I call out the name of an object. And the groups have to work together to make the shape of that object as quickly as they can. Well, in fact, within 10 seconds, or the time in which I take to count to 10, which could be a bit longer than 10 seconds if necessary. So I'm going to attempt to play to you another video with a demonstration of some more teacher training students playing the game. And what I'd like you to do, if you can see it, just take your time to take in what's happening. There's going to be a few different examples of 10-second objects, and there's 1 or 2 for you to guess as well. So watch this, and then afterwards I'll take any questions if you have any. Haven't started playing yet, but here we go.
3, 2, 1, 0. I usually start with a very simple object, like a car or aeroplane, so that the groups get the idea of how it works. I think you can probably guess what this one is. Once you start counting down from 10 to 0, you will usually notice that the groups work together very quickly. Having such a short amount of time is one of the things that makes the game such fun to play. Of course, it's up to you how fast you count. You can make it faster or slower depending on how much time you think the groups need. And you may be surprised to know that groups often finish making their object in around 5 to 7 seconds, unless it's particularly complicated.
You could use this 10-second object game for all sorts of reasons. So could you type in some ideas for 10-second objects that you could make? If you didn't see the video, don't worry, you'll be able to watch it later. So yes, a chair, a computer, absolutely. So the idea is people are going to hear this word, and then they're going to work together in a group to join together to make a shape of whatever it might be. Okay. Usually I would say, and I'm reading your suggestions, by the way, as they come up, which are great. Usually I would say groups of about 5 are good. If you get more than about 5 people in a group, then it becomes a little bit more tricky for everybody to communicate. But the great thing about 10-second objects is that you only have 10 seconds to play the game. So for those who didn't see the video, I call out the name of an object, and the object is, let's say, a handbag, okay? And then the students have 10 seconds. I start counting 10, 9, 8, and they have to work together really quickly so that overall they make the shape of a handbag. But absolutely, somebody said, what about more abstract concepts, e.g. peace and technology? Great. Those things work really well. And I often challenge students by saying, can you think of anything that it would be impossible to make with this game? And then when they give me their suggestions, I call out the object, and 9 times out of 10, or even 10 times out of 10, they will be able to do it. So you can use this game to represent abstract things as well as concrete objects. Okay, so now this game is called What Are You Doing? And it's a great, again, kind of concentration game, but also a mime game. Okay, so would all be familiar with the idea that if you're talking about an activity, for example, digging the garden, you might get students to act out digging the garden, or playing the piano, and they might have to play the piano. Okay. Now this game takes it a little bit further. All right. So instead of saying what they are doing, the students have to think of something different from the activity that they're actually doing. So you stand in a circle, the first person starts an activity, and I'm going to say playing the piano. Okay. The second person says, what are you doing? And instead of me saying I'm playing the piano, all right, I say I'm digging the garden, or anything else that comes into my head. And then the person next to me has to act out digging the garden. And then the person next to them says, what are you doing? But again, instead of saying digging the garden, they have to think of something different. I hope that most of you managed to see it. And I saw a few thoughts coming up here. It's a great game for jobs, that's right. So for example, many of these games are really good for revising material. So if you've been doing a lesson on jobs, then you could play this game. And for those who have more basic understanding of the language, you could have the jobs or activities written up on the wall so they can pick from them. They don't have to just have them in their head. And again, it's a game that is really funny, especially when it goes wrong, because typically people make mistakes. So when somebody says to me, what are you doing? I say, I'm playing the piano, whereas I should have been thinking of something different. Okay. But anyway, try it out. Watch the video again on the YouTube video, on the YouTube presentation that Macmillan will be uploading, and you'll get the idea. It's really good fun. Okay, so sorry, I've jumped ahead one slide. So I'm going to move on to the final of my 5 different drama games. And this one has a name which is a little bit made up, called Imaginarium. Okay. Again, it's a circle game. It's for the whole group to play at once. Everybody gathers in a circle, standing up. And sorry, I was just reading, I am milking a cow. I like that one. It's very funny. So everybody gets into a circle, and the teacher gives a theme. So the teacher might say, the theme is the beach. Or the teacher might say, imagine you are on the beach. Now, the next step, just to respond quickly to somebody from Spain, Imaginarium is indeed a Spanish toy manufacturer. I have nothing to do with them. I made up the word before I ever heard of that particular company. So I thought it was quite funny when I went to Spain and saw this word over a shop, but it's my own word. Okay. Anyway, so you say the beach, and then people think of objects, characters, or anything that might appear on the beach. So for example, you might think of a seagull. Then the person who has the idea puts their hand up and are picked by the teacher. They step into the circle and they say, I am a seagull. And they make the shape of a seagull. It's hard to show you in this small video camera, but you get the idea. All right. And then they stay there in their position, however it is. And somebody else steps in and says, I am a spade, like those spades that you use to dig, children used to dig, or I am an ice cream, or I am a beach ball. Okay. And they make the shape, and slowly you build up a scene in the middle of the circle. Now, I think you get the idea of that. But once more, I'm going to show you a video demonstration of a couple of different themes using Imaginarium. So let me just load it up, and then we'll play it. And then afterwards, there'll be a chance for you to ask me questions. So let's fire away.
I'm the teacher.
I'm the student.
I'm the blackboard.
I'm her desk.
I'm the chalk.
I'm the clock.
I am the chair.
I'm the monitor.
I'm a
Yes,
window.
classroom.
I am a bookshelf. I am another chair. I'm another student. I'm a door.
Well done. And whoosh.
Okay, so there we go. That was the last video for today. I'm going to go back to the presentation, but I noticed that somebody just said, "What about activities for advanced students?" And I've got somebody else saying, "What about 2 to 3 year olds?" So first of all, let's think about advanced students. All right, what kind of themes could you think of for Imaginarium if you were using it with more advanced students? Yeah, I'm asking you. Office, good. Yep, 2 people thought of that. The universe, parliament, excellent. Travel destination, phrasal verbs, business meetings, hospital, geography, Kennedy Space Center, police station, hospital, medicine conference, crime. Yeah, absolutely. As I keep impressing you with, or trying to impress you with, these games can be used at all levels. So a kid could say, I am a house. An adult could say, I am, I don't know, I am a control center at Cape Canaveral, for example. So, you know, you can just use the level of language that the students are already at. So one other thing that I do with this game, with Imaginarium, I love the idea of octogenarians, by the way. Great. Climate change and orchestra. So yeah, one other thing I do is when people are in position, for example, as the seagull, to keep using that example, I then go around and tap people on the shoulder and say, can you give me an adjective or 2 adjectives to describe your object? So it might be, I am an angry seagull, or I am a hungry white seagull. So, for example, you can add in some extra language. You can also clap your hands and ask the students to bring the scene to life for a few seconds by moving and making sounds, and then you say to them, freeze again, okay? So look, these are some suggestions that I've written down previously for Imaginarium. Some of them you've already mentioned, and there were some ideas there that I hadn't thought of. Dictator speeches, that's an incredible idea. Journalism, excellent. So you can see my list there. And again, don't worry about writing it down if you don't have time, because you will be able to download the presentation at a later point, and you'll be able to go through these at your leisure, as well as on the YouTube video. So we are reaching the end of the presentation, and I'm just going to go back, sorry, jump back a slide before I hand back to Macmillan. These are the games we played. 1, 2, 3, clap across the circle, 10-second objects, what are you doing? Imaginarium. Now, these are generally quite quick games. I run an online course with Niall and Macmillan, which is all about using drama games and techniques for language teaching. So if you want to go into this at a deeper level, that's something that you can look for at the Niall Institute site, or contact Macmillan about. We go into using drama at a deeper level, and particularly we look at how we can apply these games to course books. I didn't really have time today to talk about that in detail, but you can imagine how you could take Imaginarium, for example, 10-second objects, what are you doing, and apply it to a chapter or a section of your course book. That's, you know, it's quite easy, really. It's just another string to your bow. If you are a teacher, then you can use it along with video and whiteboard and any other techniques. So Macmillan, are you there? Would you like to come into the chat and talk about the last 3 slides?
Hello, hi, David. Thank you so much.
Hang on, I need to turn my sound back on. then
Yes,
I'll be
thank
able
you
to
so
hear.
much for your wonderful session about drama games. I have a real affinity to using drama games in the classroom, and you've certainly given us some really practical and really simple to use, easy to apply ideas that could be used to practice, practically any language items, or simply just to break the ice and get students moving and motivated for the class. So thank you so much for that, David.